Welcome everyone to the importance of the culture of failure, a new session of the Barcelona Expat Week, this outstanding initiative of the Barcelona City Council to highlight the international talent and the potential of the city. Thanks everyone joining this session and for being part of the more than 2,500 attendees of this week. And while we wait for people to get comfortable and sit at their sofas or wherever you're seeing us from, feel free to start using the chat to introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit where are you from, so we have a better idea of who's in the room with us to talk about failure today. I will start also by introducing myself. I'm Carlos Cruz, and I'm originally from Sabadell, a city nearby Barcelona, but I feel like a local after more than 10 years being around. And I'm a freelance event manager and conference curator with experience managing and hosting startup and tech events. Some of them you might be familiar with, like Startup Grind or 4 years from now. And a couple of years ago, I also started leading and curating the Fuck Up Nights events in Barcelona, which is a series of recurring events where we share stories of failure to empower innovation and shift the perception of failure. So, and that's a little bit why we are here, no? Because after attending events and being in the business and tech world for a while, you realize that we talk about a lot about success. We also in education, but we hardly ever hear and talk about failure. No, we sometimes listen to this very famous piece of advice that is like fail fast, but farther than that, we'll talk about that. And today, in order to talk about the elephant in the room, I have with me four amazing human beings that will help us identify which are the most common mistakes made by entrepreneurs and when starting new business projects. And we'll also talk about how to create a healthier culture of failure. Let me introduce them to you. So first, we have with us Paul Fleming, who is an innovator and entrepreneur from Seattle in the US. He's expert at applying technologies to marketing, and with a vast experience in opening up new markets, as he did during his career in Microsoft, working in the Eastern Europe and Russia area, where he was responsible of presenting the first Microsoft products in Russia, and all together with Bill Gates. After that, he used this experience, and fortunately, in March of 1995, he decided to start his business in Barcelona, starting Spain's first digital advertising agency, Barcelona Virtual, where he has accumulated a lot of experience working in digital marketing. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for being with us today. Would you like to add something about yourselves? Maybe, if you don't mind the challenge, would you mind sharing a little failure of your own, if you have any?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this great panel. And wow, it's always fun to work with you because I can use the F word internationally in this case, and my mother doesn't even know, and it's totally okay. So, well, we still, we're about to celebrate 26 years, and we still have a startup mentality, but we're an old startup here in Barcelona because it was founded in 1995. So I would say beyond the typical things that you need to learn as an entrepreneur, like watch your burn rate, don't get myopic about your idea, too passionate, open yourself to criticism. One thing that happened in 2007 was germane to this, as we had this whole redefinition of internet with the emergence of Second Life, and everyone thought that internet would be 3D, and so did I. And so we invested several years. I lived in Second Life for 5 years. This I explained in Fuck Up Nights, and basically to finish in one sentence, it's all about timing. Often when you're an entrepreneur, you need to read the signals and signals and learn to read the tea leaves. And most of all, listen to your users and not the press so much, but really talk to people and get their feedback.
Thanks for sharing, Paul. And our second guest today is Marta Cavanias, who is the current account manager at Fuck Up Nights Global. She graduated in public management and law and started her career as an in-house legal advisor at a big corporation until at one point she decided to shift her career and get into the tourism and events industry, which after some more experiences led her in 2019 to join the Fuck Up Nights global team, where she takes care of the organization of special events, speaker and moderator training, and content curation, among other things. And she loved the movement so much that she also leads the Fuck Up Nights chapter in Mallorca, where she's based now. Hello, Marta. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Did I miss something?
No, thank you, Carlos. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very happy to share with you some of the fuck up stories we heard and the common mistakes we all make. Because we tend to be very similar to each other, which is funny. So yeah, as you said, I've been in Fuck Up for almost 2 years. Organizing events for a special company, so for corporations and partners and NGOs, universities. So it's a slightly different audience and atmosphere than for open Fuck Up Nights, which is very interesting as well. So I have 2 views from the Mallorca chapter and from the corporation, more other kind of failures. So should I share some fuck ups?
Yes, probably people wonders if people at Fuck Up Nights also messes up.
Yeah, we fuck up as well, and it's good because we allow we are allowed. But it's funny because as I said, so we're starting this other branch, Fuck Up Nights, doing having fun with corporations and partners. Doing these events, internal events or private events, as we call them, and it was it was going very well. And we are in more than 300 cities and 90 countries worldwide, and we were doing these kind of events that were our main source of revenue in many countries worldwide. So and it was working very well. Partners were very happy with the results. We were having we were getting to change a little bit their cultures, and so what could go wrong? We were happy. Everything was growing. Last year we grew our team. I think doubled the team working for Fuck Up Global, and suddenly pandemic, global pandemic that impedes first lockdown almost everywhere in the world, and then events completely forbidden. Fuck. That was a massive setback for us, because one of the first things we learned was that we had all this year almost booked with events, at least March, April, May, a lot of events booked, physical obviously, because before we didn't do these events. And then we learned that suddenly all those events were cancelled, and we didn't have any payment done up front. And that was a huge mistake that we learned from. We didn't have a cancellation policy. yeah, we trusted our partners, but we didn't expect this massive crisis of this thing. So we act fast. First thing we realized we could do was this online events. And then, ask for solidarity payments to our partners that still wanted to have an event, but we didn't know when. And that was that saved us. But right now we are half of the team. Maybe we had to it was very hard months. We cut the time as well. We work the days of the week. But we managed to survive almost these months. But yeah, it was a big fuck up.
Thanks for sharing, and I bet it was painful. So let's go with our next guest, who is Don Hatch. He's from Portland, US. He's been a serial entrepreneur and business owner, mostly in the American real estate and construction industry. He started a different business and holds more than 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. After moving to Barcelona, he started a new venture focused on health and wellness, and currently he's global head of incubation at Demium Startups. Hello, Don. Welcome. Thank you for participating in the session. Would you like to add something? Have you had in that entrepreneurial career any relationship with failure?
With failure, yes, a few of them. So first, thanks, Carlos, for having me, and for the rest of the panel. So yeah, you had asked, to share a story of failure, but the question is, well, which one? This we'll get into this in the discussion. So one, because we do want to talk about entrepreneurship, and that's definitely the world that I'm in right now, and one that I've made and now I can give is, starting with a startup, especially when you're starting with people that you know and you trust, and there's this just certain expectation that everything is going to work out well. And there's a very famous now term of trust but verify. So entered into shareholders agreements without clawback clauses and vesting periods, and because we were all a happy team and nothing was going to go wrong. We were all good friends, and then one of the partners left, and that left us in a very uncomfortable position of somebody technically owning part of the intellectual property of the company, and contractually us not really having any real leverage to do anything about that. So that was a good fuck up of trust. Verify it's people that you like and enjoy, and trust but verify. Learn from that mistake. Very short, quick one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. That sounds familiar. And let's go with the last but not the least, of course, who is Victoria Masters from the UK. She's a business education and training specialist, and who, after working for over 10 years with some of the UK's best loved brands, decided to start using all her commercial experience to teach and train business students and professionals. And she's currently very interested and passionate about quality and diversity in the workplace and social entrepreneurship. Welcome, Victoria. Would you like to add something or share anything with us?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me today, Carlos. It means a lot because we met a couple of years ago at a networking event in Barcelona. So it's really nice to be part of one of your panels today. Well, I mean, a bit like some of the other panelists today, where do you start? I mean, I fucked up a lot to get me to where I am today. So the way I see it is all those fuck ups, all those failures that I've had, have got me to this position where I am now. What are some of them? I've had a failed business. I started a vintage clothing business with friends back in Manchester. A bit like Don said with regards to the trust verify. we didn't have the same goals. We didn't really have a plan. We didn't really research or know what we were doing. But we learned a lot after we closed the shop. And actually that was started during the crisis in 2008. So hopefully I'll take some of those learnings with me into this current crisis that we're currently living in.
Definitely. Thank you, Victoria. So now that we know everyone, I think that we can get into pure business. And okay, let's start. So Victoria, so in your experience, in your knowledge, so what are like two mistakes that you have observed or made yourself like when starting a new business that you wish that someone would have told you about?
I think one that I just mentioned is like making sure that you have a common goal with the people that you're working with, the founders or whomever you decide to set up your business with. Because if you don't discuss that in the beginning, then you're not going to reach that goal. So thinking about the vintage clothing shop, I mean, I thought we had a clothing shop, whereas one of my my colleagues, the other founder, she thought we were running an artist space and a concept space. So, you know, we didn't have that very clear. So that's incredibly important. And another one, do your research. I think we have great ideas. We think we've got great ideas, but we need to test them on other people. So again, with the clothing shop, you know, I had my vision of what was fashionable, what I loved in fashion, but it didn't necessarily translate to the market that we were trying to reach, where we set up our physical bricks and mortar store. So there would be my two things: the goal, common goals with your founders, and lots of research to check that you've got a good product or service.
Yeah, definitely communication is an issue, no, and especially regarding teams. So Paul, I don't know if like, because you have a business like that's been alive for 25 years, which is like really uncommon, no? So how did you handle this thing with your team? Was this your case, and have you experienced any other kind of mistakes?
Well, I totally echo what you just said, Victoria, and I think, and also what Don said, you know, watch the small print, even though you're all good friends. Especially, I really think if anyone here who is listening, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to go it alone, try your very best to at least find another person so you can be what is called in Spanish the duo dinámico, right? But do not clone yourself. My business partner of 26 years almost now, Pep, he and I have complementary skills, and I swear we are like two cats, that little kittens that fight and roll across the carpet, and then they roll back across the carpet. We don't have 7 lives. We have 49 or 490 lives, because in 26 years, I think we've killed each other multiple times. Communication is the issue, but part of that chafing and that you know, conflict had to do with it. We had two very different points of view, and so we really, the last final years, have really focused on listening and trying to really communicate more clearly with each other. And then in terms of the team, what definitely helps as a leader is make sure you're all on the same page. And then once you kind of know what the mission is, where are we going, constantly communicate that to the new people who are incorporated, and renew it, or ask for the support of your veterans.
I have something to say about this thing about looking for a partner, and because I've heard some stories that like were similar, that this, we are every time advised to find a partner, and sometimes I feel with the stories I've heard that we are afraid of developing our idea, because maybe this is a common mistake, because of a lack of self-confidence. Maybe we have a brilliant idea, we have studied the market, we know exactly what we want, but we are afraid of being a solopreneur, and then we go around and find partner just because we need a partner. And that's where the problem begins, because as Victoria said, maybe we don't have the same goals, and maybe since I have a super clear idea, then the other person, our partner is like, no, but you're wrong. I have a clear idea. Then it's how everything gets ugly.
And actually, Maria, I'll actually flip that and say, from my experience, it's not a lack of self-confidence. It's actually a case of overconfidence, where you're not willing to accept the ideas of others or the input of others. And sometimes that can even be the market or the customer that's telling you, no, this is actually what I want to buy, and what you're producing isn't the right thing. So one of the things of advice that has really helped me, and it's something that I encourage everyone to do, is whether it's your partner, and even if, like in Paul's case, having partners, create a panel of advisors. Have some of them be within your network, especially as an expat for this community here. Make sure that some of them are local, so that they know the local culture, they know the customs, they know the different things that are going on. But then also make sure some of them are expats, because they've gone through some of those same pains.
Yeah.
And they can help to advise, and be very, very open to that feedback and that input. And that I think is the flip side, is we think our idea is so precious, or I see people that think their idea is so precious, they feel that if they share it with anybody, it's going to be stolen. And that's just not the case. The idea is not the valuable thing, it's the execution. So share the idea with as many people as you can, get as much feedback as you can, is the advice I give.
Yeah. So definitely the team is a very important thing in the business decision. And well, with my experience as a solopreneur, my advice could be, don't go alone. Go there with someone that you can blame, that you can hate, that you can love. But I totally recommend not doing it alone. But Don, you raised a very interesting point, because something that also I've seen a lot in stories that come to Fuck Up Nights, and it's like this context knowledge, no? Like you might be someone experienced with knowledge of the industry, of the product, with amazing skills, so and have a good team that's complemented, but a lot of times the market knowledge goes beyond that, no? Like it's legislation, it's the local culture. Do you, especially like Paul, Victoria, or do you have any experience with that? How have you handled that as someone from the UK or the US coming to Barcelona and starting a business? How did you overcome this issue? Done? Yeah.
So in a nutshell, I mean, there's many reasons why the startup that I started here, I stopped. But one of the main ones is exactly that. We reverse engineered the project that we were doing. We didn't start out with the specific product or project that we were doing. We ended up validating what we wanted as a revenue model, and tested different products and ideas until we landed on one. And so we ended up in a regulatory space, which I had no experience in. 20 years of running different businesses, but this was a new space. So brought in a lot of different advisors to help coach. But in the end, what killed us is running into hurdles that we just didn't expect, because it wasn't my wheelhouse. It wasn't the area that I had the deep knowledge in. So whether it was I had advisors but not the right advisors, or whether just the expectation of working in this space, which is one that I was not completely familiar with. That was what made us hit a brick wall, and it could have kept going forward, but it was just too much of a battle to keep fighting.
Hey, Paul.
I'd also like to say, definitely local knowledge is super important. And when I worked at Microsoft, I was entering into Eastern Europe and Russia, And that is the key to success. I mean, you have to drink a lot of tea like I did in Russia and listen. And so you got to get that local knowledge and beware of ethnocentrism, centricism. I can't speak English very much after so much time, but I just want to give a shout out to Barcelona City Hall, and no estoy haciendo la pelota, eh? I'm not kissing up to anybody. It's just that I think it should be known that basically when I arrived, they had founded Barcelona Activa, which was created to help people like you and me start companies. And I got my financial advice, and our financial director came from Barcelona Activa 26 years ago. And so it definitely was useful. Now, a quarter of a century later, here we are talking, and there's still a focus in the city of innovation and of design and of always like anticipating the future. And I kid you not, this is totally sincere. I'm not kissing up to anybody because nobody's paying me to say this, but it's just, it was an immense help. So I also like, what Yulia said in the chat from Brazil. She's been here, 47 days. I thought you were talking about, I thought it was weeks or years or months, but anyway, you said still landing. See, this is why I need these. I understood it was a long time and you're still standing. But anyway, if you're still landing, you still have a soft landing. Well, we hope that we can help you. But anyway, I go back to the original idea, which is definitely, I think we're fortunate that we have a lot of local resources here, and then definitely seek out targeted people, not in the networking where you're saying, here's my card, or here, I'm going to follow up everybody like a crazy person on LinkedIn, because it's not quantity, it's really quality. So try to get as close to the people who can help you with the practical things. And then strategically, you just need to listen to your user. I need to read this chat when you guys are talking to us with my glasses on, sorry.
Yes, Victoria.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, that I met Carlos at a networking event. And I think networking is invaluable when you are setting up in a new country, whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur. And I found networking incredibly uncomfortable when I first moved to Barcelona. I tried it before and absolutely hated it. I felt quite anxious. However, I find networking totally different here in the city. It's a lot more informal and people are friendlier, I found, in terms of the types of events that I was going to. So I would highly recommend networking. Of course, now it's happening at events like these online, but there are still lots of opportunities for networking in the city. So I would suggest making the most of that.
Yeah, definitely, like networking can open a lot of doors and like provide a lot of know-how, informal know-how that is quite useful, no, in a known context. So a couple more points that I've seen like quite common, or like that generally create confusion are like on planning. No, I think that we as people and as entrepreneurs also like tend to be, let's say, like too optimistic sometimes, maybe. Do you have any experience with that, Marta? Any kind of advice?
Yes, of course. I would say that's one of the main factors when we fuck up. Yeah, like we fell in love so much with our ideas that we take our experience as the norm. So also one of the things I realize it happens to many people is that so we are so convinced with our idea, so enthusiastic about it, that even though we ask for feedback, we don't want to listen to the negative feedback, and we just take the things we like about it, right? So maybe we have, the list of things and this is a true story. I heard many things about it, but like you just want to take the things that you like from that feedback, then you improve it a little bit, but you don't want to face the reality that is maybe you have to change the whole concept. Yeah. And yeah, that's very related to this over enthusiasm. And yeah, I think it's being more realistic rather than optimistic.
Paul?
Yeah, Marta, I was thinking about that earlier this morning too. It's actually when you have this brilliant idea, it's that naive euphoria and passion that you have as an entrepreneur that really keeps you going like for years. But I totally agree with you that it's a catch-22. It's the best thing that can be happening to you, and then it's the worst thing because you can be doing projection. Like you said, Victoria. My store's going to have the clothes that I actually like, but the bottom line is which client, how am I going to reach the most clients that are going to make this a successful enterprise and connect my passion to it? So it's definitely a danger. Yeah. And it's a challenge. And I know you want to say something, Don, but I don't want something that you said in our preparatory chat the other day to get lost. Because I wrote it down. You, instead of failure or changing a culture of failure, you talked about understanding failure as being flexible and doing a pivot in your strategy. So you wanted to say something else, but maybe you can also add that to what you say, because I think this idea of pivot is a new word in our lexicon lately in the strange world we live in. So maybe you could also mention that before, so it doesn't get lost.
Sure, and that ties in the LinkedIn chat. I put a comment in there that failure is just a different outcome than your hypothesis in an experiment. And so this is, especially this is one of the big differences being American coming into European culture is failure is not necessarily a bad word. It depends on the context that you put it in, but if you're not failing, you're not trying, you're not learning. And again, it doesn't have to be stigmatized, because sometimes the best thing you can do is actually stop what you're doing. And this is one of the problems that we see with a lot of entrepreneurs is they're so afraid of failing that they keep going forward with something that is just really a bad idea. And instead of saying, this is a bad idea, and going a different direction with a different market or a completely different solution, they don't want to be seen as a failure, so they just keep going on. And this is actually talking to planning, my whiteboard in the back. I cannot stress planning enough, because it ties into so many of these things of, you mentioned naivete as entrepreneurs, that we just kind of stupidly keep following different things. But one of the things that I've taught in a lot of different seminars is with goal setting, the best thing to do is not, hey, this is my goal, is to reach the top of this mountain, and then you figure out how to get from where you are now to that point. It's envision yourself at the top of the mountain, and how did you get there? View it in reverse engineering terms. And when you do that, you can see all the different forks in the road that are possible to get you there. And if you plan that way, if you see all of these different channels, you can decide this is the best path to get there. And inevitably, you're going to get blocked on some of those. And whether it's General Patton that said it's not the plan, it's the planning. I forget the German general that said no battle plan survives the first shot fired. So things are going to change, and if you've taken that time to do the planning, you can just very quickly make those changes and go through. And it's not that you failed; it's that you saw that there's a better opportunity. You saw there's a better option, and that's this reframing of even the name of this topic, which goes to your point, Paul, of the culture of failure. Is I'm not sure I really like that term so much as, because it does imply that we're celebrating failure, and we're celebrating trying different alternatives and accepting that life happens and you take different options. And if you're not taking those risks, then you're probably not actually accomplishing anything.
Yeah, definitely done. And yeah, so regarding this, sorry, Paul. So you brought like something very interesting, because there are like a lot of different mistakes, no, made by entrepreneurs, and the list goes a little longer. But I think that probably one of the main mistakes that can happen is being scared of failure. No, that's the biggest mistake that you can make. And as you were mentioning, it happens. It's something that currently it's happening in the ecosystem, in society, in general. And I believe that it's also like a consequence a little bit of this fake it until you make it thing that has some positive things, but has been perverted and creates an extra pressure. So I would like to get a little bit into that, and see and talk how can we improve that. And for example, like Victoria, you as an educator, what do you do in class, or do you observe that as a problem?
I would absolutely agree that it is a problem. Marta talked about it earlier about people being too afraid to share their ideas. I see it a lot in class. And also I see people afraid to put themselves forward, either leading groups or for jobs, for example. I'm talking from personal experience, because I would never have applied for the job that I'm currently doing. I was teaching business English a few years ago, and I had a great mentor, and he encouraged me to apply for the role that I'm currently in. So I would say it's a lot about encouraging people, mentoring people that you see have great ideas. It's not always the person that shouts the loudest with their idea. So it's incredibly important that we create safe and comfortable spaces for students or whomever to be able to share those ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Talking about pivot, well, first of all, I'd like to just echo what you just said, because I work in marketing communication. It's an agency, so the creative part is as equally as important as the technical and strategic part. And fear is the enemy of creativity. If people do not have that safe space, you will neither innovate nor be creative. So that on the one hand, I'm also smiling and laughing because I'm responding to what somebody said in the chat here. They appear to think that both Don and I, being Americans for some reason, we squirm whenever the F word is mentioned. And actually, you were being a little too polite earlier, because you said life happens, and Carlos said it happens, when yesterday you said shit happens. Okay, so let's take the gloves off. Let's be real. Shit does happen to entrepreneurs. Believe you me, okay? So I mentioned pivot, but just in this context of something I did take away from Microsoft. There were two things that Bill Gates said that I will remember forever. In 1986, he said his vision, keyword vision, was a computer on every desk and in every home. And I remember in the orientation session of October of 1986, I said, what is this guy smoking? It just was like talking about computers on Mars, right? But the other thing that he said of great value for everybody here is later on, just before I left the company, he said, beware of the dreaded paradigm shift. And if, you want a metaphor for internet for me, because we started with internet just as it like really got big and hit, and with the agency and everything, it's I liken it to a black stallion galloping out of control. And he said to all of us in Microsoft, as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, have a healthy paranoia always. You can be celebrated, you can be on Time, Newsweek, El País, por todas partes. You can be everywhere. And then suddenly Steve Jobs comes up with an iPhone where suddenly there's Wi-Fi. The dreaded paradigm shift, especially in technology, if that's what the people who are listening, unfortunately, we can't see you, but if that's what you're dealing with, beware of that too. So I covered a lot of that territory there, I know, but I totally echo what you said, Victoria. And then I said, I think that I'm really enjoying this talk, because I think we're being pretty real. But hey, some of us need to be a little realer, like Marta, you're having great fun saying fuck. I have no trouble with it because I'm half Irish, and that's the second word in any Irish sentence, you know. So anyway, I'll leave it to the rest. I'll pass the word on to the rest of you. I don't want to get too excited.
So and Marta, so in regarding like this fear of failure, no, and what are the consequences of this, and how can organizations work that and improve and create these spaces?
I actually wanted to say something about that because Paul referred to the fear we are afraid of. I wanted to mention, because before answering your question, Carlos, it's not more why we are so afraid of failure, and we've discovered that we tend to link or to feel that failure and fault are the same thing, but they are actually not. Yeah, fault means some kind of intention, right? You do it on purpose, but failure is just that you didn't get the result that you wanted, or like the expected result, and so for whatever reason we learned since we are some kids, or that admitting a failure means taking the blame. Yeah, and we assimilate this with a punishment, and then later on in the organizations at work, we are so afraid to report a failure, because then we are afraid of the consequences. There will be a blame game, there will be responsibilities there, and also organizations feel that if we don't punish the person that have made this failure, then how we can guarantee that they will work hard and there will be some certain standards of high performance, etc. But we've tested this many times with the corporations we work with, and also there are certain studies around that proves that only 3% of the failures that every year we make, only that 3% are blameworthy. The rest, 97%, are only, yeah, we were trying and we were doing our best with the knowledge we had. And so why we are treating the 100% of the failure as blameworthy? And this is why we have this fear of failing all the time, because of these consequences, the blame game and all that. We don't have the safe space to report a failure, and this is all connected with how we are educated, and this is a whole culture of failure we need to change.
So I wanted to follow up on that, and that, again, from my experience, what I see is that fear, and I'm surprised it's only 3%, because when you have that fear that if I fail at whatever I'm doing, if it's in a corporate role, if it's in a startup, if it's in an academic setting, if I fail, I'm going to be seen as bad. People don't reach out for help. They don't reach out for advice because they have that fear of being seen as bad, which is, in the end, part of the reason that they end up failing, is because they didn't have the tools or the knowledge or the insight that they should have had to have been more successful. So it kind of goes back to that. Yes, it is a little bit of not being confident enough to stand up and ask questions, but it's a little bit being overconfident that what you're doing is actually the right thing. So again, it's removing that stigma around what's going to happen if this doesn't work out the way I planned, aka if I fail.
Mm-hmm.
So just 1 second, Paul. So because, like, as much as I'm loving the discussion, and there's a lot of things like that we could talk about, I would like to allocate also some time for answering questions from our audience. We've been having some in the chat, and if you have more, please do share them. So let's do something. Let's do like a final 1 minute each of you, so that to wrap up, try, like I suggest, if you can share like something actionable, or like something that you think that people can, entrepreneurs or just people can start doing today, or to have a better relationship with failure, and hence business success is closer to them. Paul, would you like to start?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I have the mic open. Before that practical tip, which I think is great, I just wanted to mention too that working in communication, and I think many of us, of course, in this information age, we're looking at the value of words very much. And the other day, also getting to know each other and preparing, we talked about how is success defined in different cultures, you know, and in the USA, success is you win. And in Germany, where I worked for several years, it's very much Leistung, you know, are you performing like an Audi, like a Mercedes-Benz, you know? And I've observed a really interesting Anglicismo that has entered into Spanish in the more than 2 decades I lived here. And I think it's to be celebrated. It's called learnings. Tenemos muchos learnings, no? And that's a good way to talk about, okay, we deduce some things that we learned from because of things that didn't go quite, the KPIs weren't as strong as we thought they would. So they're called learnings, you know, in Spanish. So I think that's very cool. The practical tip is this has helped me immensely, and I pass it on to all my management team. Sometimes we get totally blocked by what we think is a failure, and I love what Marta just said too. Or we just are confused by the market, by people leaving the company, by this, that, whether. It helps me immensely to mentally go up in a helicopter. Dawn, you said it in a different way. Just you were on a mountain. I go up in an executive helicopter so that I can see that the road ahead dips down where there's a lot of shadow, but then it goes up and there's a long stretch of sunlight. Then it dips down again. And at the end of that long Route 66, I see this amazing mountain range. It's gorgeous. And so I encourage all of you, whatever stage you are in your company, to get up in your executive, you know, take a deep breath and get up in that executive helicopter and just try to look ahead.
Thank you, Paul. Victoria?
Okay, so I mean, what this makes me think about is the fact that you can't always control failure, but you can control how you react to failure and how you respond. And so I always make sure that I reflect. So I tell my students, and this is going back to feedback, which Marta and we all talked about, it's really important that you learn to ask for feedback and respond well to feedback and reflect. So whether it's a performance, a pitch, for example, for investment, you know, think about what you did well, what you didn't do so well, and what you do better next time, and park that failure or what you didn't do so well and move forward with what you've learned. I think that's really important, because you can only control the future. You can't control what you did in the past. So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you for the advice. Marta?
So I would recommend something that is related to, I think it was Don said, and it's not about you. So it's not you are a failure. It's your idea, and you can have hundreds of them, and they can work or they cannot, but it's okay. And this is how we've learned to not. That this is happening to kids. We fell in love so much with our ideas that we don't accept negative feedback. We are over optimistic. We ignore the negative signs, and when we fail, we take it personally. So everything is affecting us so much, and I could be talking for hours, but I would say for an entrepreneurial side, these are my advice. It's just your idea. You can try, and don't be afraid, because you don't know. It's the first time. You allow yourself to fail, and fail fast. That's the first thing, and recognize the negative signals when they happen, to act fast and avoid a bigger failure.
Thank you. And Don?
Sure, and I want to build on both what Marta and Victoria said. So it's also, you have to keep focusing on the future. The past is the past. It's great to learn from, but you can't relive it and change it. And to Marta's point, I also see that we have too many special snowflakes that, especially if we're talking about entrepreneurship and you're talking about building a company, this is something that is going to be at least a 3, 5, 6, 10-year project. Paul's had his company for 25 years. I had one in the US for 20 years, went through the tech bubble, went through the recession, and used those opportunities to actually grow and scale the company, adapted very quickly to the market. And so you have to see that it's thousands of different moving parts and thousands of different decisions. And just because one thing fails or one thing didn't go right, that doesn't mean you have to stop. You adapt to that part and then you change. And so this sushi sizing bigger problems into their various small little parts and pieces. If there is something that you need to kill a project for, great, kill a project. But if it's just a part, don't kill the whole project because one thing went wrong. And that's another thing that I see. People just get so sensitive about one thing not working out that they just like, oh, I give up. And if they give up, then they just don't have what it takes to actually be an entrepreneur to really succeed, because you have to deal with 1,000 different blows.
Thank you all for all your valuable insights. I hope all the audience has found it as enriching and as inspiring as I have. I had written a couple of questions that I saw in the chat. I hope I haven't missed any. So someone, sorry, I didn't type who was asking, probably you, Don, can answer this one since you raised. Do you have any suggestion on where to find advisors?
So I'm going to say my best advice is it depends on what you're doing, but I wouldn't go to any one source for advisors. So for my startup that I did here in Barcelona, I did my MBA at Asade. I had advisors that were professors. Through Startup Grind and Fuck Up Nights and networking there, I found other business owners that I could talk to that knew the market. But whether it's getting advice for your business or for a project that you're doing in work or for your own personal life, make sure you're getting different inputs and don't make it all just one source. So, not only through your LinkedIn, but through social networks as well, make it a rounded group and, pull from different sources.
Anyone would like to add something to this? Okay, so we had another question. So Victoria, you were speaking about networking. Someone was asking, how do you stay in touch with new contacts? How can you add value to the relationship, as many guidelines say?
Okay, yeah, great question. Well, I guess I was only used to networking in person before we went into lockdown. So I would see often the same people at the regular events that I went to. I was also I wasn't on LinkedIn until about a year ago. I know Don is gasping in surprise. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a big fan of social media. However, for professional purposes, I went on LinkedIn and I stay in touch with people, or I approach people a lot now on LinkedIn. How do I add value? I think just by being myself, opening a conversation, having a coffee or a virtual coffee as it is at the moment, and just finding out what we have in common and seeing if we can help each other in any way. I guess as an educator, I see if we can help in any way from the point of view of the students, or if the person would like to collaborate. But I just view it as a friendship in the beginning, rather than a business collaboration, I guess.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, again, I think that we're really fortunate to live in just to breathe the air here in Barcelona, because there's a different way of doing business that I personally experienced in the U.S. and even in Germany. You know, Germany, when at Microsoft Germany, business was war. It's like, kill them all, we're gonna win. You know, it's like you cut right to the point that you make in a dinner. And one of my German friends told me he was super frustrated doing business in Barcelona because you had to spend an hour and a half having dinner and talk about vacations and sons and daughters, and then a coffee postres, then you finally got to the business, you know. And so I think that we have events like this. Fuck Up Nights are great fun. You guys really, you should come. It's a lot of fun. Like 7-minute little speeches where people tell you their fuck ups, and you learn a lot, just like this. And then also, I would mention Startup Grind. Startup Grind, it's a Google initiative for entrepreneurs, and the Barcelona chapter, you were a founder or co-founder, I think, with Alex, right? And it's been going how many years? 5 years, 6 years? It's won awards because
6.
Yeah, you have this great vibe. You have people immediately, they kind of leave their image at the door and they get real and they say fuck and shit and they cry and they celebrate, and it's like real life, you know. So I think we're all tired of talking heads. I am, and political correctness and the whole thing. I want real people to kind of like accompany me on my adventure, and that's what's cool. And I wish maybe we can all have a beer when they let us, you know, later at a different date. We'll have to talk to the Ayuntamiento about that.
Yes, definitely. And I totally agree. No, and this brings me, no, and I think that if something that I always say and think about, no, in the end, like most of it is about the people, no, and like in business, team, everything. So if you keep that in mind and think about customers, about who you meet as a human being, as someone like you, with their interests, with their needs, with their moods, then it will help you accomplish what you want in a selfless selfless way. No? I think it's time, sadly, to wrap it up because we need to finish on time because we have another session starting. Are you able to do it in 30 seconds, Don?
Yeah, I am. So back to the how do you network, and it ties to Startup Grind. One of the best things you can do is offer help to somebody else. Before you ask for something, ask somebody else, how can I help you? And that's going to open up far more doors. So that's another great way is see how you can help other people.
And I just put the URL on the chat for the people interested in Startup Grind Barcelona.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to every attendee for joining this session, for asking questions. I hope we didn't miss questions on the chat. I believe that among the oral ones and like writing we did. If not, we'll try to go over them somehow remotely. And thank you very much, Victoria, Marta, Don, Paul. It was super exciting. And enriching the conversation. And thank you, Pedro, Mariona, and City Council for putting this amazing initiative together and helping the city to keep on growing.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
And have you stopped recording, Carlos?
Muchas gracias. Thank you all of you. And we're doing a little poll about the session, and 74% of people say that they're very good and 26 good. And and it's a 100%. So it means that nobody found it was bad, very bad, or the average is very high. But
we didn't fail.
we didn't fail.
We didn't
it
fuck
was
up.
very interesting, really.
We didn't fuck up.
No.
No, it was nice. I'm sorry because so many things like there wasn't time to talk about, but thank you guys for your inputs, your honesty, and being here, because I believe that it was really nice.
My hand is tired from taking so many notes of the things you guys said. These resources, these great ideas, quotable quotes. Look on my LinkedIn in the next day or two for a couple like gems from each one of you, like verbatims. Amazing stuff. Really very cool. Thank you, Carlos, again. Thank you. And Pedro and Mariona. Really
see you soon in a fuck up nights with a beer, as you mentioned.
great.
We miss this.
Yes. Bye,
Okay.
and good luck with. Yes, Victoria.
Sorry, I was just going to say I have to teach now, so.
Great seeing you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, really lovely to see you all, and hopefully see you very soon in person. Okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. And good luck with the rest of the week
Thank you.
and activities. Bye.
Yes, good seeing
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye-bye.